All right, welcome back. Question. What do you do when you flout traffic rules and you're stopped by the police, ready to be charged? Do you accept your mistake and take responsibility, or do you look for a convenient way to convince the traffic police that nothing really happened? Does it ever concern you when you use the office phone to call friends and relatives, and sometimes use office materials for personal use? Well, corruption seems to be the outstanding culture, both in the public and private domain, though it is always overlooked. We want to find out, is corruption a problem in Kenya? And how can we slay that particular dragon? Perhaps you could also share your experiences. The number is 22422. You could also post us a message on our Facebook page. That's Power Breakfast Show. On our Twitter handle, that is at @power_breakfast. Remember, you can also call. The number is 0719 777 777. 0719 777 777. All right. In the meantime, let's just take a look at some of the facts and figures as far as corruption is concerned in this country. All right, so facts, the top 5 institutions and the sectors that face bribe demands. So we, top of the table, no question about it, police 71.7%, followed by land services 70%, just 1.7 difference there. Judiciary 29.7%, registry and licensing services 28.9%. And then, of course, finally coming in at the bottom line, city and local councils at 18.9%. These are places when you go, there's that probability of actually a bribe being demanded from you. Okay, so why is it that people engage in bribery, corruption and all that? Let's find out. So these are the facts. Number 1, to hasten up service, 38.3%. You want something to be done for you faster. 31.6%, it was the only way to access service. There was no way. So you had to bribe, so 31.6%. To avoid problems with authorities, you don't want to get into any problems, brush shoulders with anybody, so that's 20%. And finally, to avoid paying full cost of service at 7.1%. So you talk to the authorities and you say, you know what, why don't you take half the price, I take the half, and then we are sorted. All right, so how does corruption manifest? Okay, because some people don't know. So let's focus on the first one. How does corruption manifest? Bribery, where you give an inducement, a benefit so that you get some favor. That's bribery. When you give that police officer or that secretary something, that's bribery. Fraud, where you manipulate information to serve your needs. Embezzlement, procurement, public procurement, and then you get your money out of that. There's a problem there. Abuse of office. This is where you use office equipment, material for your own personal use. And we talked about using the office phone, using office time for your own private means. Okay. So those are some of the things. And then finally, conflict of interest and bid rigging in public procurement. This is where you are the one voting, but at the same time making decisions when it comes to tenders and all that. So basically, those are some of the ways that corruption manifests. Question: do you think corruption is a problem in Kenya? Sort of a simple one. In fact, somebody asked on Twitter said, is that a question or a compliment? But do you think corruption is a problem in Kenya? We want to find out what is your experience with that and what do you think can be done to handle that. Of course, you can SMS 22422 is the number. That's 22422. Facebook page Power Breakfast Show. Twitter handle at @power_breakfast. And remember, you can also call in. The number is 0719 777 777. Right now we have a very powerful interview here, and Bwana Mutegi Njao already in studio to actually talk to the Executive Director, Transparency International. But we're taking Jao over to you.
Samuel Kimeu.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Before you go to corruption, there was a press report last few days ago that Transparency International did some survey about county government. What has that got to do with transparency, and what has it got to do with corruption? What was the relevance of the survey?
Well, as Mutegi would know, is that in the last election, we elected the pending structures of governance as created under the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And one of the profound changes that we've had is to create county governments. Resources are being channeled, significant resources are being channeled to the counties. And we've had a challenge of corruption in public service at the national level and also at the local authorities level. One of the challenges that the counties will face is actually protecting public resources from corruption. That is why we asked members of the public to tell us a few things about devolution. One of them being whether they know how much resources were allocated to their county, and 83% of them said they were not aware. And of those who were not aware, that is the 17, of those who are not aware, the 83%, 44% of them said they knew where to get that information. And if you go further down, then you find out that there is a lot that Kenyans don't know about devolution in the counties. And that is bad for this country, because if you look at the way the Constitution is structured, the intention of the drafters of the Constitution is to have a very engaged citizenry. And if the citizen does not know, they do not have information to hold the county governments to account, then there is a loophole that will be exploited by corruption cartels to fleece the public of the resources that ought to benefit them.
Whose responsibility is it to give that information to the public? Is it civic education? Is it who needs to do that?
Well, public authorities need to do that. At the national level, you have the national government. It has its own structures of providing information. At the county level, you have the county authorities. But as a country, we cannot deal with the issue of accountability effectively if there is no information flowing on vital issues that affect the public. And in this case, if you're talking about the distribution of resources to the counties, that is a function at the national level that has to be communicated to the public very effectively. But it is also important for the county governments themselves to take up the responsibility of explaining to the public at the local level, their publics in every county, how much money has been allocated to them and how they intend to use that money. That is important, because at the end of the day, the public ought to be able to ask questions about how the money has been spent.
Apart from the public, you have county assembly representatives, the so-called MPs for the counties.
That's right.
If you look at the category of people elected there, some of them probably themselves don't know.
It is true. I think we have that challenge, and the challenge is mainly because the way we package information is not ideal for public consumption. For example, if you look at the figures that were released in the press about the allocations, you get these lump sum amounts that you are not broken down, so you wouldn't know what money is coming from where. And at the county level, again, you have to follow through very keenly, and perhaps even leave your comfort of your chair to go to the county offices and try to understand how that money is being allocated. Yet the Constitution and the laws on devolution require that the public be involved in first identifying the priorities in development, and secondly, in ensuring that resources are applied accordingly. That is in the budgeting process. And after the budgeting process is done and implementation is ongoing, to monitor that implementation, and finally do an audit to find out whether the resources were applied where they were supposed to be applied and whether they got value for money.
Previously, before the Constitution, there used to be district development committees and village development committees, or divisional. And of course, the chiefs and barazas, those could be used for that purpose. In this situation now, who can do that in the village level?
Well, there are structures that the laws on devolution are put in place. You have the county consultation forums, and they go all the way to the village. I don't think that has been done yet. Part of the challenge where the public doesn't understand, for example, the amount of resources, is because these structures have not been put in place in many places. And as it is, we must insist that these structures accompany devolution, and they have to be put in place and facilitated in a way that would enable the public to make a useful contribution.
Makazi has shown us statistics to show about what corruption is, the manifestation, the cost. What can citizens do about in the village level about corruption? Because they are part of the problem.
It is true that the citizens are part of the problem because they participate in corruption,
yep.
And especially bribery. And what the citizens can do is first and foremost to report whenever they encounter corruption, because they pay the greater burden of corruption. The people who, the middle class, people who have monies in this country, hardly use those public services, the health services, the education services, the basic services that the common mwananchi uses. And therefore, the burden that they bear is much lighter than the one that the common mwananchi bears. And therefore, we have to begin to internalize what corruption does and how it affects us, and desist from it as individuals, and also to speak against it. And one way of speaking against it is to report whenever it occurs. Unfortunately, in this country, we have a dearth of corruption reports. Our statistics show that only 5% of Kenyans report corruption whenever they encounter it. 95% of them don't. And there are various reasons why they don't. And a bigger percentage of them, around 35%, say that they don't report because they know nothing will be done. So it's also an indictment on our institutions that they have a mandate to fight corruption within their ranks, and they have a mandate to uphold integrity. But the public doesn't have much confidence in them to do this.
Again, also maybe members of public feel that there are other priorities, not reporting corruption. In any case, they might benefit.
Actually, if you look at the statistics again, corruption is a concern for members of the public.
Yeah.
It's a big concern. In this poll that we released on Monday, when we asked members of the public what they consider to be the greatest threats to devolution, top of that list was corruption. 35% of the respondents said that corruption is the biggest threat. And the next one, which was about resources, inadequate resources, was 15 points less than corruption. So it's a major concern. And it's a major concern, and I believe that it is always seen that the public is concerned when there is a movement within our institutions at any one time towards accountability. You see the public coming out to support that. Of course, there are those who will be mobilized politically to go and chant that, oh, even if this is so-and-so is a thief, is our thief. But there are majority of Kenyans would stand against corruption. And they understand what corruption does to them by way of denying them services that they are entitled to, and by way of wasting their time when they have to follow up services that they are being asked to bribe for.
If that is the case, then how come we have elected people who are known corrupt to be corrupt, people known by the public? Take, for instance, a person like who is very well known, Communist Party. He formed a political party. People joined it, and he's known for Golden Bag.
Yes.
Everybody in Kenya knows Golden Bag.
Yes.
And we have seen even today members of parliament who have been involved in corruption